Hi everyone, welcome to our friendship bracelet program. My name is Miss Laura and we are going to be talking about something that has been a hobby of mine for quite some time. Ever since I was younger, I did friendship bracelets all the time and now I've rediscovered them and am doing even more wonderful, crazy friendship bracelets that I'm going to talk about with you today. For our program, we are going to be focusing on two types of friendship bracelet, a tutorial on how to make some of the more basic skilled bracelets, and that is going to be the spiral ladder bracelet, which looks like this, and also the chevron bracelet, which looks just like this with the little V's, okay? These are going to use basically the same knot. It's just going to be used in different ways, which creates the different patterns that we're going to see in our program. I will show you with some bracelets I already have in progress, and then if there's any questions, feel free to contact me at the library to help you out with anything that you may want to know about how to make your friendship bracelets. I'm also going to be putting some resources in the comments and the description for this YouTube video with some other places that you can go to find some great tutorials on how to make friendship bracelets, to get patterns, to get more ideas on how to do different types of bracelets, and use some of the techniques that I use myself when I'm looking for bracelets and patterns and designs to use to make my friendship bracelets. When we are making our bracelets, we are going to be using embroidery floss. This is the same thread you would use if you were doing cross stitch, if you were doing embroidery, and you can find it at any craft store. You can find it on Amazon if you want to buy it online. It's just going to be these little strings, looks like this, all different colors it comes in, and it's a really simple, basic tool to make our bracelets today. And so if you want to pop over to Michael's or another craft store to pick some of that up, that's what we're going to need. And then you can use the techniques I'm going to show you today to do your bracelet. Now, when you're starting your bracelet out, you're going to need a rather long piece of string. So if you are looking to make a bracelet, you want the string to be way longer than the wrist that you're actually going to put it on, because when we make these knots, it's going to make the string shorter and shorter and shorter. So I always just kind of guesstimate. I don't actually measure out the string. Just make sure it's a pretty good length that you will be able to tie in. And as you make more and more bracelets, you'll realize how much string you really need. I'm sure you can Google to say, if I want a bracelet that's 5 inches long, 6 inches long, how long do I need to start with if I'm making this type of bracelet? That's something you can do. It will change for each bracelet, so I'm not going to go over specific sizes right now. Just make sure you have a pretty good long length, which is like way longer than your wrist actually is when we're making it, and it's going to change and vary based on the type of bracelet that you're going to make. So we're going to start with the spiral ladder staircase. I'm going to set up my example so that the tutorial can start, and I will meet you back here. Okay, so here we have our spiral ladder staircase bracelet that we are going to work on. I already started it because I find that in tutorials it is easier to see what we're doing once we get a little bit further down. If you start up here, it gets a little bit less visible in the video, but the way you would start it is exactly the way that I'm going to be continuing the bracelet right now. You're just going to tie a knot and then start with this technique. What I did was I actually made really long pieces of string and then put it in half before I tied it to get this loop. But you don't have to do that. Just pick 3 colors, 2 colors, 5 colors, however many colors you wanted to have in your bracelet, and just tie them together on the top, make a good knot so that they're all tied together, and then just put a piece of tape to hold it in place while you are making your bracelet. I've already done pink and blue, so I'm going to go on to my next color, which is that purple strand. And to change colors, all you do is just, pick a string to be off to the side. So to make our spiral staircase, spiral ladder, whatever you want to call it, bracelet, you're going to indicate which color you want as the single string over here. So now I have purple. It goes all the way off to the side because that's the color that I want to make my next knot on our bracelet. All the other strings I'm going to keep together really tight so that they are all almost as if they were one string all together. One of the good tips on how to create this knot is to make sure that this bottom, this center string is really straight all the time. Once you start pulling it off to the side, things get a little bit trickier. You start to lose your knot efficiency. So really make sure that this stays strong, straight up and down the entire time. So this is staying straight up and down the entire time. To make our knot for our bracelet, we're going to take this purple string and we're just going to cross it over the other strings. It makes a little bit of a 4. That's how you can think about it. Now, to finish it, all you do is you reach through the center of the 4. So lift this up, reach through the center, and bring the purple from the other side through. See how I did that? And then you just pull it, make sure this stays tight, straight down, pull it up to the top like that. You'll know if you did the 4 right, because if you were to cross it over and have it not go through, so for example, I'm going to bring the tail lower than it, all you're going to get is nothing. Show that again. If you do it wrong, incorrectly, you make your 4. If you don't pull it through, it's just going to wrap around the strings and it's not going to tie into a knot. We want to make sure that we have the 4 and then we reach through the middle, through the center, to grab the purple on the other side and pull it through all the way, and then we just pull it to the top. Now when we're making our spiral staircase, the one way to make it actual spiral is to make sure you're constantly doing backwards knots the whole time. You notice how the string that is purple is going around and pulling right where the knot is being formed, right where that last piece of the previous knot is? If you keep pulling straight to the top, all your knots are going to be right on top of each other. But if you continue the spiral and make the purple, you can see I'm doing it fast just to get the motion down. You're just going to pull it a little bit near where that last string came out. If you don't do this, it will be fine. It just won't be a spiral. Absolutely fine. You would just get string or knots down one side. For example, I'll do a couple that way and show you how it would look. If I'm constantly pulling to the same spot, just keep pulling to the right without going around in that circle. What I get is all the knots being right on top of each other. So instead of going into a spiral, can you kind of see how they're going straight down? Instead of going to spiral, they're going straight down. Not a big deal. You can make a bracelet that same way. It would still be a nice bracelet. All the knots would just be on the same side. You wouldn't get that spiral. To get that spiral, like I said, you're going to keep moving the thread just a little bit forward, pulling a little bit more to the left if you're doing it the same way as me every time to get that spiral. All right, so that is our spiral staircase, spiral ladder, whatever you want to call it, and how we do that was with that 4. To change colors really fast, all you're going to do is choose the next color you want to use. For me, it's pink because I want to keep that pattern going, and you just take all the other ones in your left. I have it in my left hand. You might choose to use my right hand. In one hand, you keep the string all together, and you make that 4 with the other one. Reach through the middle, and now I've changed colors. Simple as that. Nothing fancy for changing colors with the spiral staircase. You literally just change which string you want to be off to the side. Keep this knot going. And that is how you make the spiral staircase. I will put some resources below for more let's see, not demonstrative, but more like worksheets on drawings and how to make this. Maybe that would help you a little bit more, but it's just a lot of 4 making and making sure you're reaching through and tying tight. One last thing I do want to show you, because this is a mistake I see a lot of people make, is I told you to make sure to keep the extra strings that are in your hand, that you're nice and straight to the down, right? Up and down. Often I see people go like this. They pull this through and then they start going like this. And they pull these strings over to the side. And what's happening is I'm not getting the pink knot. I'm getting a knot with the other strings. And that's what ends up being my knot. And that's not the knot we want for our friendship bracelet. We want to make sure that we get that pink knot. So when we're doing it, we have to make sure that we keep these strings up and down so that we make sure to get that 4 correctly and to make sure the pink is the knot and not the others. Hold straight down and then just pull it up to the top. So that's our spiral staircase. this knot that we used in the spiral staircase, oh, I should say, to end the spiral staircase, all you do is just tie a knot at the bottom. Then you're done. Okay? To make the chevron, we're going to use that same technique. So a lot of these friendship bracelets that you see, even the ones that you see online that I'm not making today, the fancy ones that one of them I'll show you later, are going to use the same technique. The 4 that you pull through. The chevron is just a little bit more stylized, but it's ultimately kind of the same skill. So what you do is you're going to do the 4s from right to left and left to right. I'll explain. The same knot can go from right to left or from left to right. So on the side that's going to be, what is my right side, I'm going to want to make a green line. So just like I did before, this green is going to go off to the side because that is the color that I want to make my next row. But instead of doing a 4 around all of them like I did before, I'm going to separate the strings so that they are not together. That way my knot's going to go on just one of the strings instead of all the strings like you saw in the spiral staircase. So when we make our chevron, we do the same 4 that we did with our spiral staircase. We just make sure to do it only on one of the strings. So our green is going to go around our blue, and we pull up to the top. Okay? Then we're going to go on that same string, make another 4, reach through, and this time we're going to pull it to the left because we want our green to end up on the left of that blue. You'll see that technique again on the purple. So now we did the blue and we're going to want to do it on the purple next. We make a 4, cross it over, reach through, make sure your hand's going through the hole, pull through, reach all the way up to the top. Then we have to do a second knot to make the green go on the other side of the purple. So we make that 4, we pull it through, and this time we pull the string to the left, to the direction we want it to be going. We want the green to end up on the other side of the purple, so we pull it to the left for our second knot on the purple. I know it sounds confusing, but ultimately it is the same kind of technique. It really just takes practice to make it look how you want to look. So the green from this side went all the way through, and now I'm going to do the green from the other side. And I realize now that I did not mention how to set this up, so I will say that shortly after this. Now, with this green, we want to be going in the opposite direction. So we're going to do everything we did going from right to left. We're just going to switch it and make it go from left to right. So the green is going to be off to the left this time. This is the color we're going to be using to make our knots. So the blue is going to stay really straight, like I showed you in the spiral ladder, and we're going to make our 4. But this time, we're going to make our 4 the other way. Before our 4 went to the right, now it's going to the left because we want to be moving to the right. I know that's confusing. Just make sure that the 4 is going towards the outside. The point is going towards the outside of our space. So we make our 4, we reach through on the blue string, and we pull straight up to the top. Now, this time we want the green to go onto the right side of our blue string. So when we do our second knot, once again making our 4 the other way, we're going to pull to the right. So now the green is on the right of the blue because of the way that we pulled the string. And we're going to do the same thing on the purple string. Now that we have the green spot in the way in between the 2 strings, it's in the perfect spot to make our knot on the purple string. So we make a 4, again making sure that the point is pointing to the left if we're going to the right. I know it sounds backwards, but that is what we're doing. Oh, okay. Sorry, you can't see it. Pointing to the left over here, and then we're going to pull it through. Once again, go straight up. This purple stays straight. The purple goes all the way, the green goes all the way to the top. And then we make it again. We make the green 4, make it go under, and this time we're pulling to the right. because we want the green to end up in the middle of our chevron. So as you can see, now our greens are in the middle of our chevron. And we need to close up our chevron by making one last knot. This time we're going to use the 2 green strings to make our knot. So we make the 4 of one, it doesn't matter which one you do. Our 4 with 1 green over the green, pull it to the top. Same exact thing as we did before, make the 4 again and pull it to the opposite direction. Our greens have actually switched sides at this point, so the one that was over here is now over on the left side. You'll notice I didn't go over the setup of this because I forgot, but all the strings are kind of symmetrical mirror images of each other. This is how you set it up at the beginning, and starting out the chevron bracelets is the hardest part of making the friendship bracelet. Once you get it going, it gets a little bit easier, but at the beginning, this is how you would set it up. You set up with the 2 colors you want together, and then the same color again, and then 2 colors the same in the middle. So I used 3 colors in this, meaning the blues were on the outside, then the purples in the middle, and the green in the middle would be, or purple in the middle of the blue and green, and the green ultimately in the middle of all of the threads. I don't know if that made sense what I just said, but you can see visually on my screen how you would set it up. Just make sure that you have them coming on the other side evenly with the same colors. One way I like to do this, again, is to make extra long strings and then fold them in half, tie a knot so there's a loop. Instead of cutting out 6 strings, I just cut out 3 extra long strings and fold them in half. That makes it a little bit easy to separate them. They tend to get right into this order right away. So that, again, is instead of cutting 6 strings, you can choose to cut 3 extra long strings and fold them in half to get this loop at the top. Then you just tie a knot and get going with your chevron. We're going to do one more row together so you can see how it works with the next color. So starting with our right side, we're going to take the color we want the knots to be, which is this completely outside color, all the way to the right. Then we just make our 4s. We cross it over. 4 is the point to the outside. Reach through, pull it straight up. That's the first one. Then we have to make our second knot that transfers. That's when the blue is going to move to the left of the purple string. So we cross over the blue, reach through, and pull it to the left. One more time. Now we have the blue in the perfect position to do it with the green knot. So we make we make our 4 with the blue, we reach through, pull it straight up. Same string, we hold it tight, we cross it again, pull it through, and pull it to the left. Remember, the second pull always goes in the direction that we want our blue string, or our string that we're using for the color, to travel. In this case, it's blue, so we're pulling the string to the left on our second knot because we want the blue string to travel to the left. Now, one thing I like to do is I'm done with this side for now, so I'm putting these strings all the way off to the side, out of the way. I'm not going to use them when I'm making my knots on the other side of the chevron, so I just put them out of the way so that they are not going to be in my way when I make this other side. And then I spread out my strings so that it's very clear what string I'm going to be using on the next side. So again, we're going with our blue on the chevron. We make a 4. The 4 point is going to go away from the bracelet. So this side, it goes to the left side. And then we go all the way through. We reach through, pull it all the way up. Then we make another 4. This time we want to travel with our blue string, so we're going to pull it to the right because we're going left to right on this side. Make sure this purple stays tight down as you pull this blue one up. Now the blue is in the perfect position to move on to the green string, so the green string is going to stay up and down. The left one, the blue, is going to come to the other side of the green string. So we make our 4 with the blue string, pull it through, pull it all the way up to the top. And then we're going to do it again because remember each string gets 2 knots. We pull it through and we pull it to the right. Now both of our blue strings are in the middle. We can finish out this row of our chevron by connecting these 2 into our knot. So we make our 4, pull it all the way to the top, and then closing it out. Remember, each string gets 2, even the ones in the middle. We make our 4 this time. Since the 4 is pointing this way, we pull it the opposite way, which is to the left. And that is how you do your chevron. You just keep on going all the way to the end, tie a knot when you are done, and you are finished with your bracelet. You'll see when I made this chevron bracelet that I tied a knot, and then I decided to do braids at the bottom with the extra string that was hanging off. And what's nice about these, when you actually leave a little bit more string at the end of the braid, is that it allows you to tie the bracelet at different lengths. So instead of having just one size that it can be, you actually are going to be able to tie it bigger or smaller depending on how big your wrist is. So it gives a little bit luxury, especially if you're making this for someone else. You can kind of see that you can make it the braid super long or super short when you're tying it, and that allows you to get the perfect size for the person. That's just an optional technique. I actually recently learned it. Not something I did when I was younger, but it does help when you are not sure how long the bracelet needs to be, or if you're not making it for yourself, especially. If you are making it for yourself, you can just measure it on your wrist to make sure that you have it the size that you want. Okay? So that's how you make the 2 bracelets that I'm talking about today. I'm going to flip the camera back up, talk to you a little bit more about bracelet making and some other examples of what you can do with just some simple thread techniques. Okay guys, so I tried my best to show you how to make these 2 different types of bracelets, and hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, please contact me at the library or stop by if you're able to ask some questions. But basically, if you know that simple technique, especially the one we used in our chevron, then you're able to make all sorts of bracelets. For example, just using that basic technique with the chevron, I was able to make this bracelet with hearts on it. And that is something that you can find online as well. If you are looking for a pattern, you just are going to do the same knots. It's just going to change the order that you do them in and the strings you do them in. So you can make one with hearts. Here's the chevron I made you saw earlier. And then once you really get into it, if you really want to move on to an even higher technique level, you can start making some designs. These are called alpha bracelets, and I recently started doing them. So this is an example of an alpha bracelet where you have an actual design. There's dinosaurs on this one, and this one is using the same knots that I used in the chevron. It's the same exact technique, it's just used in a different way. So if you really master the technique on the chevron, and even the spiral staircase is that same, make the 4, pull it through, then you can move on and make cooler bracelets. I shouldn't say cooler bracelets, different types of bracelets that have different techniques and different patterns and different even details like this, like these dinosaurs. I made this one last week. The fun thing about the alphas is that all the ones that have patterns kind of look the same on the front and the back. You see our hearts, and on the back you see a little bit different, but still hearts. The alphas, you can see the pattern on the front, and the back looks like a whole mishmash of stuff. So that's like a lot more stuff going on this one than with that other one, introducing new colors and shapes and stuff. So that is something that you can learn if you're really interested, if you are taking this friendship bracelet to the next level, and there are a lot of resources online for that. I'm actually going to link a couple places on the comments I mentioned earlier. One of them is Bracelet Book. Bracelet Book is a website that I recently found that is for people who are interested in making bracelets. And what you can find on Bracelet Book is all sorts of patterns, tutorials, guides, and really interesting designs and other things that you might be interested if you're interested in bracelet making. On there, you'll find lots of tutorials. One of the people that are on there that I really like is, her name is Masha Knotts, and I'll link to her YouTube page down below. But she is someone who has very beginner-friendly tutorials. She is the tutorial I use to help learn alpha bracelets myself. So we'd be in the same boat if you used her for your tutorial as well. I just think that she is a great person to go to for simple instructions once you've mastered that little knot that we did on the chevron. So for today, we have made our spiral staircase, we have made our chevron bracelet, and we are good to go. Practice, practice, practice. As you continue to make more bracelets, you'll just get even better, and your bracelets will be even stronger and tighter, and you will have lots of fun gifts for all your friends. So make some friendship bracelets, share them with some friends, keep them for yourself, and I'll see you next time.